The tourism sector is trying to rally again after nearly 2 years of COVID cancellations and lockdowns. Surprising, perhaps, then, that such a vital sector was not specifically mentioned in the President's State of the Nation address last week, except for talk of e-visas. But President Ramaphosa did talk about using the private sector to grow more jobs, with government creating the right environment. Tshifhiwa Tshivhengwa is CEO of the Tourism Business Council of South Africa. He joins me now. Tshifhiwa, thanks so much for joining us this evening. So, no specific mention, actually, on tourism, which is such a huge part of our economy. Were you surprised, disappointed?
Well, we were surprised that, the President was very thin on tourism, or the information that was given was pertaining to e-visas. We would have hoped that the President would have linked the fact that the private sector is instrumental in creating jobs, should have linked that to tourism, because tourism is easily one of the sectors that can immediately create jobs, both in urban areas and rural areas. So we think it's a missed opportunity. We think more could have been mentioned on tourism. Issues like removal of PCR tests for those that are fully vaccinated traveling into South Africa, we believe that should have been dealt with and should have been announced during the State of the Nation address. We believe that it's a missed opportunity. Again, we will go back to our drawing table and we will, put the right pressures to make sure that, the things that we require for the rebound or for tourism recovery, are well taken care of, and also solve these immediate issues. And that's what I'm mentioning specifically the issue of PCR test for fully vaccinated travelers. It's an immediate issue that if we don't deal with it now, we're going to lose out within the markets.
And it could have been a very quick and easy one to lift. Apart from the COVID issue, which we know has had a massive impact on tourism, what gets in the way of creating new jobs in tourism? And I'm thinking from every level, from your freelance tour operator, your family-run B&B, to your big hotels and resorts. Is it always red tape, or are there bigger challenges?
Well, we do have challenges. Some of the challenges are self-inflicted, if I may put it that way. These are challenges pertaining to regulations. At the moment, we know that the e-visa has been announced, but it's not complete. It's not implemented in China. It's not implemented in India. So it simply means that in those particular markets of which we see, high growth, we don't have a system in place for people to apply and get their visas on time. So that is a problem. In addition to that, we have issues around the National Public Transport Regulator in terms of issuing the vehicle licenses, in terms of those that want to operate vehicles to carry tourists. That system is slow. There are people who have been sitting on the system for more than 2 years. They haven't received their permits. It really burdens the industry, and it ensures that entrepreneurs that want to enter the industry, they cannot get permits. And that is a problem. So there are many policy issues that need to be addressed. They sit outside of the tourism space. Our job is to influence and convince, but we have been presenting our case over and over again to say these are the things that need to be looked at. Again, there are bigger issues like infrastructure in terms of roads. If we have too many potholes, if you look, point in case in Mpumalanga, it's problematic when, those tourists that are coming into the country, they're doing self-drive, they rent a car, they're driving themselves, and they wouldn't know where the potholes are. So we need to fix our roads. We need to fix the rail infrastructure. We have seen that, the Blue Train, as an example, had to stop its operation because of cable theft and so forth and so on. So we need to fix all these things, not only for tourists. We need to fix this thing for ourselves, so that when the tourists come here, they can be able to enjoy those type of services that we have. So we have policy issues, infrastructure issues, but most of these things are things that we can fix ourselves. We just need to make a decision to make sure that the recovery of tourism is realized sooner than later. And if we don't make these decisions, we're going to have a problem going forward, because other countries, including our neighbors like Botswana, as I've said, the PCR testing as an example, they've already lifted that. Many places like Australia, they're reopening. We are still talking and discussing about something that we presented last year to say that it has to be looked at and it has to be solved.
Yeah, it's a race to get the global travellers' attention. President also spoke during the State of the Nation address about foreigners coming to live in South Africa, but who are actually working for companies based in other countries. It's a sort of Zoomtown phenomenon, but on a global scale. We are seeing that happen more and more. Do you see that as a form of tourism? And if so, is this a growing sector that we could and should be capitalising on more?
Well, there are many countries around the world that have implemented what's called the nomad visa. So those people who want to live in another country, they work, staying, let's say it's here in South Africa, they stay here in South Africa, but they work for their own companies that are based in their country for region. In essence, they are here, they rent our spaces in terms of the hotels, they use our internet, they boost, the restaurant industry. They do tours and so forth and so on. They can come and stay here for 6 months or a year. And when they stay here, they really boost the tourism industry. So that part is a part that we need to look at to say, can we really implement something like that? Because many countries have done that. If you look in the Caribbean, they have done that. And there are people who are working, let's say they're coming from the US, they're sitting in the Caribbean, or they can come and sit here in South Africa. They're still working for their own companies at home. Something that we need to look at, and we need to look at fast, because we're going to miss out if we don't act on it. But in terms of how the companies should operate and, what are the quota systems in terms of employment equity, that's an issue of the Department of Labor to deal with and to make sure that the rules of the countries are implemented and we make sure that, everything that we have, said in our rules is implemented. And if there's anything that needs to be changed, we therefore have to go and change those things through the necessary channels.
So I was in Cape Town over the weekend. I heard so many foreign accents, so many people from around the world clearly enjoying what Cape Town has to offer. How is our international tourism recovery going?
Well, it's starting to pick up. It is slow. And the biggest thing, and I've been hammering on this point from the beginning, the biggest thing that's standing between full recovery is the PCR testing. The fact that we as South Africa still require people who are coming here, who are fully vaccinated, to present a PCR test is an inhibitor. We do agree that those that are not fully vaccinated, they can present a PCR test. If we don't deal with that, we're going to be overtaken by Australia. When we market in the US, we compete heavily with Australia. We're going to be taken by Botswana, who have just announced that they're doing away with PCR tests for those that are fully vaccinated. And I can assure you that other countries within the SADC region are going to come through, lifting the whole PCR regime. West Africa comes through. If East Africa comes through, we're going to be the one left behind, and our recovery is going to be even longer. And we're not going to get the people that are outside. 470,000 people that have lost their jobs are not going to come back if we continue with the PCR testing regime for those that are fully vaccinated. That is the single biggest thing that we need to do and decide on immediately.
Yeah, and as you say, it is not something that's going to take long to implement. Once the decision is made, it can be an overnight thing. Thank you so much for chatting to us this evening, Tshifhiwa Tshivhengwa.